In terms of organizing teams, and let's say you have this experimentation culture. I mean, Bezos and Amazon kind of pioneered this approach with the two pizza teams. How do you look at organizing teams to move effectively and efficiently through decisions and actually productize ideas quickly?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. I think there's a couple of things there. One is that, so at one extreme, we would say, okay, we're going to have teams, and the teams can do whatever the heck they want. They can run things however they want. We don't care as long as it's a success, right? Uh, and the other way, the other extreme would be, okay, we're going to forcefully be very rigid and say every team has to work in this way, right? And so figuring out what the balance of that is a tricky thing. And ideally, you would at least be learning from successes and failures, right? So that if a team tries something and it's a success, that way of working, that they would share it with others and others would adopt it, right? Or if they did something in a certain way and found that it was a total disaster for them, that they would share that and other people would learn from those experiences. So figuring out how you take the best of things and the worst of things and don't do those things, I think is a really important thing. And then I think the other thing that's really important is just it's the whole scaling factor, right? Because of course a lot of things are much easier when it's smaller. When you have one or two teams and those teams are small, that's one thing. Now do it with 1,000 people, 5,000 people, right? That's a whole different story. And I think that's where tools and platforms can be very helpful, right? Because they allow us to amplify and to handle data and so forth at scale, right? So it becomes pretty obvious to most small companies that at some point, even though they might have tried to avoid it, that they need some kind of tool to track what the heck is going on, even if it's just spreadsheets, right? You've got to have something, right? You can't just be having it all stored in your head, and you've got to have some organization around this, and it might even just be Google Drive or whatever, right? But you have to have tools, and you have to evolve those tools. So one of the things I think that was powerful at Shopify with the teams that I was working with there is that we built a lot of internal tools to run the company, and that's what a lot of other companies today are doing. And what's interesting also, I think, is that there are a lot of companies out there who build tools like that, and they offer services, and they will come to an organization. They'll say, "Hey, we've got something that we think is going to transform your organization. Will help you run your organization." And sometimes those things can be useful, and sometimes not. If they're just sort of basic infrastructures like Google Docs and those kinds of things, sure, most people need those. But often, what I've seen is that companies that are trying to figure out how they run their projects and how they run their teams often end up building their own stuff internally, right? Because it's something that actually really meshes very well and fully supports the way that they work and their culture and so forth. And so investing in that and be willing to build your own tools without going crazy. That's the other problem, right? Is that some organizations will go, okay, we're going to build our own tool and we're going to have our own this and our own that, and they spend forever doing it, and they go overboard with it, and that's not a good thing. That ends up, often being a failure.